Hi, it's Sian from La Creme Patisserie in Angel Street in Neath, and today I'm cooking ahead for Christmas. I'm going to be making a chutney. We tend to make our chutneys earlier on in the year because they tend to need to mature for at least a month before you eat them. So by making them in mid-October, it means that they're going to be of top quality when you come to eat them in December. So the chutney I'm going to make today is a squash, apricot and almond chutney. And with chutneys, you need the sort of the sweet and the savoury. So we're using cider vinegar and then also the sweetness of sultanas and figs in it. So if I can just talk through the ingredients. I've got some finely chopped onions, which I'm going to start by cooking off with. I've got some prepared butternut squash, and these have been cut into 1 centimetre cubes, or like Branston pickle, if you know what Branston pickle chunks are like. I've got some chopped apricots. These are no-soak apricots. And then I've got some sultanas on the side of the dish, and I've got some figs which I've chopped up again, and figs and sultanas, that will make a lovely Christmassy chutney. I've got some coriander seeds, and there's cardamom in there, and there's also turmeric and some salt. They're the seasonings for the chutney. And I've got some blanched almonds, which again have been roughly chopped up. And the acidicness in the chutney comes from cider vinegar, which we've just bought from Morrison's. And don't worry, because this looks like a lot of ingredients, but I'm doing actually 4 times the recipe, because I'm going to make a big amount to sell in the shop. The recipe that you find on the internet is sort of much less than this. It's just enough to make enough for a family. We're also using muscovado sugar, and I've bought some jars, but you can be collecting your jam jars and chutney jars in your kitchen and to be refilling them. Okay. So I'm going to start cooking now. Into my large pan, I've placed the cider vinegar with the dark muscovado sugar, and I've brought it to the boil. You have to be very careful not to burn the sugar, and so you should stir occasionally. Got that? So to the vinegar, I'm going to add the butternut squash. If you didn't want to add butternut squash, then you could use pumpkin. And as I said earlier, these are cut into 1 centimetre cubes. Butternut squash keeps its texture when it cooks. So the last thing you want is chunky, crunchy bits in your chutney. So by cutting them into nice small pieces, it becomes sort of quite soft, but still has a little bite to it. So there are my pieces of butternut squash. Do you want to have a look in now? I'm also going to add my chopped onions. And again, as I said earlier, I'm doing a large amount, 4 times the recipe. But obviously, you'll just do 1 times the recipe. I'm also adding apricots, which have been chopped again to the same sort of bite-sized piece. And my figs and sultanas. Chutneys are sort of quite interchangeable, so if you didn't want to use sultanas and you didn't want to use figs, you could swap them round for raisins or currants or cranberries, you know, whatever you fancy. And then the last thing I'm going to add is the blend of spices. So I've got turmeric, coriander seeds, cardamom pods, salt, and I'm just going to pour that in and stir all the ingredients round. And there's some chilli powder in there as well, and bring it back to the boil. The turmeric is going to give a wonderful colour. The turmeric is going to give a wonderful colour to the chutney when it's cooked. So if you look in there now, Ian, it looks exactly like a jewelled pan of delicious food. And these colours are going to cook down and cook in together, and we're going to have a lovely golden coloured chutney to put on our Christmas ham in a couple of weeks. So I've got to bring this back to the boil now, and that's a bit boring to watch, so we'll switch the video off and we'll come back in a couple of minutes. The chutney chutney's come to the boil now, and what I need to do is actually reduce the amount of liquid in the sauce so that it becomes nice and thick and it's the same texture that you want when you have it on your plate. So leave the lid off the saucepan and then gently just boil it. It may take between 45 minutes and 75 minutes to reduce, and I'll show you a bit later when it starts to reduce what sort of texture that I'm looking for. I've sterilised my jars in hot water, and then I've put them into the oven to dry. And that's because you don't want any moisture or any water in your jars when you come to do the bottling. My chutney's been cooking for 45 minutes and it's somewhat reduced now. So if you take a look in the pan, you can see that the vegetables are lovely and cooked, the onions are softened and taken on the colour of the dark sugar, and then the apricots and the raisins and the figs, they've all plumped up because they've taken on all the juice of the vinegar. To tell if it's done, you draw a spoon through the pan and you can see that you're left with a trail of juice, and there's not too much juice there. So I'll do that again and you can see it again. So you just pull it through and then you're just left with a trail of juice. So I've got some vegetables on the top and then the juice on the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is stir in the blanched almonds, and I've chopped these up. It's going to add texture to my chutney, but you don't want to leave them whole because then you might break your teeth when you're eating your chutney. So I'm just stirring that through now, and then my lovely chutney is ready for bottling. If you're going to bottle hot chutney, then you need to have your jars still hot or warm in the oven. And you can see that there's a lovely Christmas colour on that, and it's going to be fantastic with turkey or pork or ham in 6 weeks' time. Minimum of a month you have to leave it, but I'll be eating this at Christmas time. I'm going to start bottling the chutney now, and I've prepared my jars and sterilised them earlier, and you're simply going to fill the jars up as much as you possibly can, taking care not to have any air holes in your chutney. So you can see it's very, very fruity and it's very, very thick, but it does have a little bit of juice, which is obviously the sweetened, the dissolved sugar and the vinegar, which is going to be wonderful. And you really need to pack it down when you make your chutney. Press it down so that there's no air, and each jar then is filled with fantastic fruitiness. Okay. So I'm going to carry on bottling all of my chutney, and I'm going to see you later once I've done some labels for them and I've put some Christmas wrap on the top to give to, because I'm going to send them as lovely gifts for Christmas and sell them in my shop at Angel Street in Neath. Check us out at www.lacremepatisserie.co.uk, or alternatively look on our blog site, not our blob site.